Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where women from every walk of life come together to break barriers, embrace their power, and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Vicki McDougall, and each week we explore inspiring stories, actionable strategies, and empowering conversations to help you step into your confidence, amplify your voice, and create a life without limits. No matter where you are on your journey, this is your space to grow, thrive, and become unstoppable. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. And today I am joined by the lovely Natasha Johnson. Thank you for being here today, Natasha.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to meet you. And I'm so happy to know that you have your story. You have quite an interesting story. I have not been involved in the military or even really known anybody. My sister-in-law, her husband was in the military, but I mean, not as close, right? And when it's a woman, I just feel it's a little bit different. So I would love to hear your story, and I'd love for our listeners to hear your story about how you've transitioned from these things that should be to now the things that you want it to be. Because it is a great story. It is a beautiful story. So how about we start back to when you started your career? Because it was how that all began. So I'd love to hear that.
So mine is pretty simple. And I was in school, and at this time, high school. I knew my dad told me at 14 years old, he was in the Army as well, but this is not what influenced my decision to join the service. So I just want to throw that out there first. But I did grow up in a military household. But I remember him coming to my room, and it was weird. I was in the bed, getting ready to go to bed, and he turned the light on and he said, "I don't have any money to send you to college." That's cool, Dad. I wasn't going. And at the time, that's what I told him. That's cool. I wasn't going because school at 14 was just too much for me. And I mean that as far as sitting down in a classroom and just the traditional way of learning. That just
Yep.
wasn't my thing. And so I knew that college that just wasn't going to be it for me. And my plan was at 14, because I thought 4 years later, I thought 4 years was going to be an eternity. It's not. 4 years is
Mm-mm.
that.
That's
I
right.
just thought I'll graduate high school and I will just get a job and go from there. And of course, those things looked a lot differently. So I graduate and it was like, all right, what are you going to do now? I got friends getting accepted to different colleges, some joining in the service themselves because they had made that decision. And part of me, I'm just sitting here like, what are you going to do? And so
Yeah.
it took me, and I have been like that probably my whole life. Just you should do this, you should do that. And I just remember, and I remember it was a day in October. It was October of 99. Don't quote me on the date. I just remember that it was 1999 and it was October. And I'm just at home with my mom because my siblings were in school already. They were still in school. And it was just something she said to me. And it was like she was nagging, but she wasn't nagging at me, but she was nagging about the situation. And I just sat there. I was like, I can't do this. I cannot be at home and deal with this. And my dad had subtly was like dropping little nuggets like you should join the military. And
Mhm.
I remember when he walked home, I said, Dad, I want to join the military. And he was like, that's all you have to say to me. So, join the service. 4 months later, I ended up joining the service. And then that is what made me go, huh, there's something more here that we're doing. So again, 18, still had no clue on what I was doing. I just know I was joining the military. And I remember the job that I chose in the military. The only reason I chose the job that I did was because it had a short tech school, like your technical school. So that's the school you learn about your job.
Right.
And so served 21 years, great. Loved it. It was a great experience. I would not change it for the world. But when it was time to transition out of the service, I still was met with that 18-year-old self.
Mhm.
What do you want to do? And I sat there all right, I thought 20 years was gonna be enough time for me to kinda figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
And there were 2 things that kinda came out of that. A big part of it was I love to travel. So the 21 years I was in the service, I spent 14 years overseas. So that became a big part of me as a person. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the traditional route. Get out. Most folks who transition out of the service, they end up going right into a government job after. And for me, that just wasn't what I wanted to do because I I've already did this for 21 years. Why would I go
Right.
back and do something similar again?
Right.
So then I decided to join the corporate sector, the private sector. Although in the company I was at was wonderful. However, that honeymoon phase probably lasted like a year and a half. And for me, it's like a shiny penny. Oohs and ahs. This is great. I could see myself
Yeah.
being here forever. And about a year and a half in, I was like, no, I can't see myself being here forever. And then I just realized that I'm not meant to live in a box. And so what happened then was I got impacted by a layoff. And at that point, I was looking for work or finding something to do, but I felt like my time in corporate was just like a checkbox filler. It was just something for me to do. And look, I'm
Uh-huh.
making money. It was easy money, but I'm not happy doing it. So when the layoff
Yeah.
happened, I was
And
thrilled.
you know what? Absolutely. And I was just going to say that I was going to bring that back because, you chose to go into the service because you weren't sure what you wanted to do. Then 20 years go by and you enjoyed that time. You got to travel, you got to see the world, you got to do all these things. But then after that 21 years, you were like, okay, the natural route is to do the work for the government, corporate, whatever it looked like. But that alignment still wasn't there because it wasn't your purpose. So everything was happening to say to you, hello, hello, this isn't for you because right? You chose it and then it was like, "Oh, now you're gonna get laid off. Oh, look, you chose it, now you're gonna" right? Because it wasn't what was meant for you, which was you know what? You tried. You can't say you didn't try, and that would have been the easy way for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
But there's something more there too, and Tasha, I really want you to, um, talk about your son, because that has a lot to do with what you believe and why you want to do what you've chosen to do too, which Natasha, I think this is wonderful. Like that part of your story is what grounded you. But girl, there's big things out there for you and you're not settling because you know that now, which is,
Yes.
it is, that's what's Unstoppable is all about, right? Is
Yes, it
listening
is.
to that voice. So talk a little bit about your son too, because I don't want anybody to miss that part here because it's important.
My son is probably my why. And it's
Mhm.
crazy because my 20s, I was this person, I was free. No, I don't want a family. That was me. So when he came up, I was like, what is going on? But little did I know that he would have been the catalyst. And so I remember growing up, the traditional route. You finish school, you go to college, you find a good job, you live happily ever after. And I was like, this cannot be what I want to show my son. I want him to see what that looks like. So let me demonstrate it for him. And so a big part of that after the layoff, it was a lot of soul searching. That's probably the
Yeah.
easiest way to put it. And I was gonna go back to the traditional thing. I had resumes ready to go. And then I think maybe after the second or third rejection, I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And I remember taking a trip actually to Hawaii. I took a trip to Hawaii, and while I was there, I was able to be reconnected with an old friend of mine from when I first joined the service. So she was like, you should start a business." I'm like, "I'm not interested. I don't want a business. Don't want one. But
Yeah.
since we're talking, what do you do?" And then she told me she was in the travel space. I was like, "Wait a minute, travel?" But again, I'm foreign to business in general, but I love to travel. So maybe I can make something work here. And I kind of sat there with myself I said, "You know what?" Because there were 2 things going on, while that conversation was happening. 1, to figure out what my next trajectory in life was gonna be,
Uh-huh.
and 2, there's some stuff that you didn't complete in the military that you need to finish out too, which was school. So, I did both, and in the back of my mind the whole time it was my son. And my son, outside of him looking like me, we probably have very similar traits. This is probably a
Mhm.
little bit of karma too. So coming up, but he's the
Right?
same way with school. He's like, "Mom, mom, 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 I don't like school. I don't wanna be in school." Very we're very much alike. I was gonna say we're very hyperactive, but we're very much, because I don't want that to be looked at, a bad way,
No.
saying somebody's
A
hyperactive.
and, I don't even know that I just think you both have a knowing of what you don't want. It's the discovering of what you do want that can be the problem sometimes. And aligning that and finally looking at it like you just said, he's your why. He's
Yes,
your why because you want to be able to live your life with him and show him the world like you've seen the world
yeah,
and be able to share it with him and that experience and that discovery. Because now that it's starting to align, you see that gap closing,
yes, I do.
right? And that light went on when you went there. There's no coincidences. You went and met your friend that you haven't seen in so long. You're closing these gaps that have been open, like finishing the schooling and doing this and that. And but the momentum is there. And you're like, no, there's more happening here. And when you get to live your life on your own terms and nobody else's, it's a powerful thing.
Yes.
And from the time we first talked till the second time, the third, now your demeanor's different because you are sitting in your power. And I can see that, which is a beautiful thing to witness for me, not knowing you very well, but you know, you are unstoppable, girl, and you are creating a life that you want to live for you and your son.
1000%. And I appreciate that, Vicky, because I want my son to realize that this life has no limits. And
Mhm.
and I tell him this too. I tell him this because so the thing about me, I have been the underdog my entire life. And then you, especially when your own family underestimates you. And for me,
Mhm.
that's like a sucker punch, because the people that you're the closest to, um, like, we're blood. You would think that you should support
Yeah.
me in these things. And of course that transition into the service, because I was never vocal. And if I was vocal, it was more, and this is as I got older, but I was the underdog there too. And so I fell into this trap of the I should be doing this, I should be
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
And it's another common trap is the comparison trap. So
Mhm.
this person, this person and I are the same age. We're doing this. We got kids, and they're light years ahead of me. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And that drove me nuts. And so I just got to this point, Vicky, where, you know what? I'm still young. I cannot live life the way other people want me to.
That's
And
right.
so my time in the service, my time even with my family, you know what? I'll show you better than I could tell you. And so I think now I've gotten to this point where I'm very comfortable being the underdog. Actually, I prefer it because you won't see
I
me
don't
coming.
That's right, but I don't think you're an underdog girl. I just think that you were everything was aligning. You weren't supposed to do all of what everyone said you were. This was your journey. You were supposed to do this. This is what brought your son to you. This is what brought your world the way it is. And you've created that. No one else. You. And
Yeah.
I picture you when you had said about your mom, I picture you sitting there, your siblings are in school, you're now graduated, they've gone back to school, and you're like, still not knowing. And I can see you sitting there as a little girl going, oh, I am not living like this. I am
Nope.
not listening to my mom. And no offense, mom, if you're listening, no offense. But I'm just saying, my mom telling me, all the things that are wrong, not necessarily with me, but just, in her world. And that's the moment that things changed for you. You stood there in your power, even not knowing where it was bringing you. You chose that.
1000%. And now to look at this retrospectively, and my friend said this to me recently about a month ago. I saw her on a trip and she said, "Your story was already written for you.
Mhm,
You just had to figure out what that story was." And so
mhm.
when she said that, I'm like, that's kind of profound, actually.
It
And so
is.
it's. And I would say, to add another layer to this, is that my time in the corporate space was really questioning my sanity.
Yeah.
So it made me question, because I had a leadership role there, and I was successfully a leader in the military, and I would say that I did a pretty good job doing that. And then that should, I wouldn't say the skills are transferable, yes, so I'm thinking, okay, this should be a fairly easy transition. But it got to a point where I was questioning my own skills in the
Mhm.
corporate space. And that's when I realized, okay, something, all these cylinders are not firing off, because you just spent 21 years, you have the skills, and then you're letting this corporate place tell you that you don't. And it really bothered me, because I'm like, maybe this is, maybe I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And that self-doubt will come in. It will come in.
And it lived there. Probably lived there more than 60% of my time there at
Wow.
that company. And I just kept questioning myself, like, and a big part of it too was, okay, they have degrees. And I was, again, back to that comparison trap. They have degrees, they've done this, they know they have knowledge. And I said, you know what? This is not where I belong either.
Yep. Yeah.
This is not where I belong either. And so it was scary? Absolutely. Like when the layoff happened, I was relieved. So that was probably already an indicator when I got the notification,
Yep.
so that you
Yep.
didn't belong. I was already relieved. The second part was just like, what's next? Because now you're
Yep.
just going back into your 18-year-old self again, 14-year-old self again. And then it's just a matter of, I am not going to live life anymore on anybody's terms. And I love it, because I know you're watching, right? I know people are watching. I know you're watching. So now the stage is mine.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? It always has been, but it comes a point in our lives that we finally get to see that for ourselves. Other people can tell us that, and we can hear it. And there was signs for you all along the way, but that you weren't ready. You just weren't ready. And now you are. And you feel safe now in your
Yeah.
decision, which makes you be able to take that next step, which makes you to be able to, and then you're aligned and you're feeling all of these feelings. And then now you have the intention and you trust yourself. Those are
Yeah.
all important things. And until those things are firing all together, all cylinders, it's a very difficult thing to make those choices in our lives because we we don't have to know how we're going to get there, but once you know your why,
That's it.
it doesn't
That's
matter
it.
how, because it's going to happen, because we're going to make it happen. And that's what you've chosen to do. And you are. And, you're creating a business for yourself. You are responsible for how things are going. You are the leader of your own life. And you've always been a leader, but now you get to do it on Natasha's terms.
Which is probably the best feeling ever.
It
And now I've
is.
got this little person. Okay, he's not little. He's taller than me. But I've got this my son looking at me, because I made it very clear to him. I'm like, "Son, you have to be who you want to be." And I said, "I'm not going to stop you. Your dad is not going to stop you." I said, "However, there will be other people around you that's going to influence that. But as long as you are true to what that feels for you."
Mhm.
And I said, "And the part about this is, you will be tested, son.
Yeah.
You will be tested. So in this case, let me demonstrate to you what that looks like
Yeah.
as your parent. So let me
Yeah.
demonstrate what this looks like. Is it scary? Yes, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it afraid, son."
That's right. That's right. Amazing. Amazing. Like, we always second guess ourselves. until we don't. And once we don't, there is no stopping us. And that is what you have done. There's no more second guessing. You're not listening to anyone else. You're listening
Oh,
to you. And I think that that is key for almost every woman that I speak to on this podcast. The common thread, the thread that ties us all together is I got quiet and I listened to what I wanted and I got aligned with that. And then I started taking the action to do so. No one said it's going to be easy. No one. But to me, it's choose your hard, right?
correct.
What is going to be more hard? You sitting behind a desk leading people that you don't feel that you even want to be with or sit at or do, or sit behind a computer on the beach with your son, helping people out traveling around the world for themselves. Like, what
That's
is
it.
better? Right? It's a beautiful thing, Natasha. It's beautiful. And I couldn't be happier to hear, even in the short time we've known each other, your shift is so profound. And I knew when we first talked, oh, this girl's got something. I could hear it in your voice. And then the second time, even confirmed it more. And then today, there's no stopping you.
No, not so look, watch out world.
Hmm. He's
Watch
coming.
out world. But I think the message, thank you very much for that.
Oh,
I think the
absolutely.
message here is that regardless of what is going on in your head, the heart, the stomach, you have to do what feels true to you. And there's a yes, there are a lot of things that there are a lot of factors that play an important part in
Absolutely.
that. You
Always.
know, am I going to make money doing this? Where's the money going to come from? Like yes. What support am I going to get? The thing is, if this is what you feel like your calling is, then do it. And it probably took me my time in corporate to realize now I truly understand why people quit these high figure salaries to pursue their passions or their
Yeah.
passion. So it's I just know when I think about, I don't even want this to sound morbid, but if I were to die right now, could I go back and look on my life and say, you lived it on the terms that you wanted to?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would say right now I'm about 50-50 on that.
Yeah.
I'm about
And the
50.
next time you are on this podcast, you're going to be 100%.
Oh, yes.
Because this is how you weren't even 20%, when we first talked. You are now
No.
at 50, and that's in a short amount of time. By the next conversation and the next, girl, you're going to, because it's now who you are becoming. It's not a question anymore. You're not questioning. There's no doubt. You know that all of that is going to come. The money's going to come. The support is going to come. Everything you need will come into your awareness when you need it.
And again, that story was already written for me.
Yes, it was.
I just had to
Mhm.
figure out when and what
Mm.
story.
Yeah. Well, you figured it out. And you've given, you know what? You've given hope to many women in in your shoes too. By being on this podcast and sharing your story and showing your being vulnerable enough to say, this is why I did this and this is what I did and I wasn't sure, but I tried it. Like you are, that is important for women to hear because we all have a time in our lives where we're going through the same things that you went through.
And still continue to go through because
Yes.
and I think for
Yes.
me, it's important to figure out what is true to me. I'm
That's right.
social. I am social and I love humor. I'm
Yeah.
social and I think my cup is filled when I'm talking and I'm interacting with people
Yes.
and I'm able to share something that I've done or so for me, connection is very important. And then the
Yes.
other part of that too is while I'm connecting with people, of course they bring things out of you, but for me, my cup
Mhm.
is full when I am connecting. The other part of it is just I was just meant to be a nomad. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Which
I
is
just I was
amazing.
'cause and
Good for you.
I was born into the military life.
That's right.
So to be in the same place now as an adult for 9 years, I'm going crazy. But a lot of that is stability from for my son, of course, but I
Absolutely.
still find ways to make that happen. So
Absolutely.
connection and exploring because
Yeah.
I will say the global perspective of the world just changed my it clearly it changed my life.
Mhm.
So here we
Yeah.
are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you're gonna keep us in touch. We are going to keep you all posted on Natasha's journey
Yes.
because it's going to be a phenomenal one, I just know. And I thank you so much for, sharing your story, being vulnerable, and, speaking your truth and really allowing yourself that time because it's not easy, but you have it and you know where you're going now, and the sky's the limit for you. So thank you. And all of her information is going to be in the show notes. So if you want to get in touch with Natasha, she has her own Instagram handle, and anything that you need to know about her and you want to connect with her, whether that be to book something in travel or whether that be to chat with her, get some advice, whatever it is, we will share all of that in the show notes. Thank you again, Natasha, for being here. And I can't wait to watch your journey blossom. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and your power is limitless. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, share it with the women in your life, and leave a review to help more women discover their unstoppable selves. I'm Vicki McDougall, and I'll see you in the next episode because your journey to unstoppable starts now.